This is not a recipe for those of you who are counting calories. It's got a lot of cheese in it, but that's also what makes it really comforting and delicious. And then we've packed it with some kale and some butternut squash, so it really does deliver on the nutrition, but it's nice and rich and satisfying. The first step is going to be to bake a butternut squash, because we're going to use a little bit of the butternut squash puree in this recipe. If you don't want to do this step, you could get canned pumpkin or something, but I really think it's worth it to do this. It's not very hard, it just takes a little planning ahead. Cut a butternut squash in half, carefully. I really hate recipes where it's like peel and cube butternut squash, because it's really hard to do, it's time consuming, but this recipe really is just cutting it in half. That's all the cutting of the butternut you're gonna have to do. After you get it cut in half, you're just gonna scoop out the seeds and then put a little olive oil on there. I'm also going to put some garlic in there, because the garlic is gonna season the butternut. So just brush that on there so it doesn't dry out too much when you're baking it. Drop these garlic right in there, and you can bake them at 375 for 20 minutes or so. Just keep an eye on them when they're nice and soft, and then after it cools, you can just scoop it out and puree it, and it's so much easier to deal with than cutting and peeling one of these butternut squash. When you take the butternut squash out of the oven, don't throw away that garlic, because we're gonna use that in here. And now we're gonna start prepping all the other stuff for this bake. Make the pasta like you normally would, but don't finish cooking it. Keep it a little bit uncooked, because it is going to bake a little bit. So about 4 minutes in the boiling water, and then you're going to add some chopped kale. So take all the stems out and everything, cut it into small pieces, and just toss that into the pasta water right at the end, like the last minute that you're cooking it. And that just kind of saves a step of cooking it, gets it kind of softened and ready for the bake. And then we're going to mix up all the other ingredients. This is the butternut squash. I scooped it out and just kind of mashed it up with a fork. You're going to want about a cup and a half of butternut, salt, pepper, chopped fresh sage leaves, fresh thyme from the garden, and the garlic that we put in the cavity of the butternut squash. Once it's roasted, you can just kind of push that out of the peel and mix it in with this. I have already done that, so it's already got the garlic in there. To this butternut herb mixture, we're going to add a 1/4 cup of vegetable broth. You could also use chicken stock or something like that, but I'm keeping this vegetarian. And then we're gonna add a 1/2 cup of heavy cream. Just whisk that in. Kale is not really my favorite vegetable. I have a kale salad that I make, which you can find the recipe on the Earth Eats YouTube channel, but I am not that crazy about kale otherwise. And I happen to have this year an exceptionally productive kale plant. Just one, but it is just producing so much kale. So I'm looking for things that I can do with kale. And this recipe really fit the bill, because it's got the kale in it, it's got quite a bit of kale in it, but it's very rich and satisfying and delicious. We've got all of our ingredients ready. We're just gonna pour this sauce into our kale and pasta mixture. And then we're gonna start adding all of these cheeses. So we've got a cup of mozzarella, we have a cup of Gruyère, and about a 1/2 cup of parmesan. A lot of cheese. And once you've got it pretty well combined, you're gonna transfer it to a buttered dish. And this dish is a little bit small, so I'm probably gonna have to divide this into 2, but we'll see how much we can get in this one. And then we're gonna take this ricotta and just kind of dollop it around the pan. Cover it with aluminum foil and put it in a 450-degree oven. We'll bake it for about 10 minutes. Take the foil off, add a little more grated cheese, and bake it for another 5 or 7 minutes. I love the combination of sage and butternut. It is so nice, and it's really working well in here. Let's get a bite of the kale. Oh, this is great. It feels like it's kind of an adult mac and cheese dish. It's really nice. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And you can find us on social media, and you can also find recipes and our weekly podcast at eartheats.org.